It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, February 2nd. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that guess we're rooting for Team McKinnon.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your best bet of $5 or more wins. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ Puxatawny Phil did not see his shadow. So early spring this year on this Groundhog Day.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
see. That's
I
that.
know. I feel like with, some of the lack of snow, we're gonna get one of those late winter, early
More
spring
Easter's in
snows.
March. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, we'll see. In Flyers news, Carter Hart was moved to non-roster status, so that gives us a roster spot back, at least
But
at
not
this.
really, because there's no money to pay somebody for the roster spot. That's the problem
Um,
right now.
they can move Ellis to LTIR. He's still
They
just on
can,
IR
but
right
for some
now.
reason they haven't. So I don't know what the holdup has been with that. Um, so I can't guarantee that they're going to do that because they haven't done it. They may ask John, "Do you want anybody else up here?" And he might say no. I don't know. Like I can't
Yeah,
assume
well,
it.
yeah, I just don't think they'll make the move until they want to actually have a transaction that will warrant it at
Okay.
this point.
Yeah, that makes logical sense.
I try. Um, In the meantime, the All Star Game festivities have begun. We, of course, had the player draft, and as I said at the top of the show, Travis Konecny ended up on Team McKinnon, which is, I believe, what I said I thought might happen on
Yeah,
yesterday's
I
show.
think you did. If you can't beat them, join them, right? McKinnon just scored
Yeah,
4 points against them recently, so he was very happy to have the agitator, as they called Travis Konecny, and that's good.
yeah. First off, Travis Konecny looked incredible on the red carpet.
He did. He looked good. That's as
That
much as I
suit.
could say. He looked good.
Yeah, his suit was phenomenal, so, really appreciated
Yeah, and I think
that.
he had his wife and kids' pictures on the inside, because everybody does that inside thing now
Yeah,
where they put something on the lining, and so that was nice.
yeah. Of course, Cale Makar was the assistant captain for McKinnon, following the theme of teammates, working together there, and, not too shabby of a team that he's on. Of course, like, McKinnon was gonna pick Crosby first, with the same hometown,
But Crosby
and
wasn't there.
it's true. There was a Timbit kid acting in Crosby's stead, which I thought was actually kinda cute.
It was funny. But McKinnon said he didn't know, like, he had no idea when he picked him that he wasn't gonna walk up to the podium, like, that was funny.
Yeah. The hot mics were a whole thing, during that draft,
Yeah,
but,
because I know at one point, McKinnon was like, "Leon, shut off your mic," or was vice versa, and it's
yeah.
like, if you do that, you're stopping all the fun, and let's face it, it was a bit boring. It was just too long.
Yeah, I think that, the celebrity captains thing was a good idea, but it's like they're trying to balance out the fact that some of these guys, like the hockey players, don't have as strong a personality. So they needed like, some people to punch it up. But the problem is
Right.
like Buble was the only one that was like, even Will Arnett, I guess. But like you have to have like comedians or people who can think on their feet and improv in
Right.
order to do that. And
But they also have to know
um,
the league.
I don't know
They
if
do.
that matters as much, but in terms of like being quippy about the different players, sure, sure. But like Bieber was kind of quiet, I think
Yeah.
overall, and Tate McRae, I did not know who she was, but
No.
you know, I
And she
read
might
up
be
on her real
fantastic,
quick.
but just people in the
Yeah,
US, I
yeah.
feel like, don't know her at all.
Well, unless you watch So You Think You Can Dance, which
Okay.
I have watched that show many times, but I just did not watch the season she was on. So, um, yeah, I
But there's
think
also some
that,
other things too.
yeah,
Like, don't put the pressure on Connor McDavid to give a good interview. You know he can't give a good interview. Like, the whole world knows this, and Buchagras went, "Well, Connor, you got the final word," and I felt bad for him. He didn't know what to say. He's not the guy to do that to. There's other guys to do that to. You could do it to McKinnon. You could do it to Tom Wilson. There's certain guys that are great
yeah.
interviews. You would, yeah. Buchacra should know that at this point. I understand ESPN might want as much McDavid as possible, but wait till he's on the ice. The speaking part, not his best part of his game.
No, but he's much better at talking about the actual goings on of the hockey than he
Sure.
is
But then
about
when
like
you
extemporaneous stuff like
right, well,
that.
that's the thing. When he asked him to extrapolate, then it was like hum the, and I felt bad
Yeah,
for him.
yeah, yeah. But TK is on a pretty solid team,
Yep,
I think, and it'll be a good competition. Um, of course, the first pick overall was Kucherov going to Team Hughes.
that was
Um,
smart.
yeah, I think so. Speaking of those hot mic situations, when McDavid picked Pasternak, he said to him like, "You got to try, man." Like it was so funny.
Yeah, yeah, that is funny.
Uh, I don't know. The other interesting thing that I noticed on the All Star jerseys is that the nameplate was below the number on the jerseys,
See, I don't know. I
and
didn't pay too much attention to it because they got it folded up and then they were sitting on the bench, so you mostly saw the front of it. So to be honest, I didn't even notice.
well, I noticed it from the team captains standing up.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because the old PHF Women's League did that because, some women have, I mean, some guys too, but like have longer hair. So it would cover the nameplate. So they put the nameplate below the
Right.
number so you could read everybody's name. But I hadn't seen that on like a men's jersey before.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, certainly the one thing that and I have a couple of these, but one thing that really rung true was when they were doing they were showing different All-Star games, and most of these jerseys look like guys are wearing pajamas. There's been a few years that I've liked, but most of them look like they're wearing pajamas, man. It's like it's funny.
Yeah, this year's, I think that I like them in person. Like when I saw the pictures or and
Yeah.
the drawings when they first came out, I was like, I don't know, but they look almost like um clothing from Mario Brothers. And I think that was like really
Yes.
cool, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I think that's accurate. I do.
Yeah. So I think it looks good in person. We'll see what they look like out on the ice in motion. But, yeah, I think, the draft was fun. I think it was just kind of a shame that it was kind of buried, on the broadcast end
Well, it
of
definitely
things.
was buried, like, you couldn't get it on regular TV, and but wha and what I mean by regular TV is just, even a good cable package didn't get it. You had to have ESPN Plus because ESPN didn't show it anywhere else. I have, like, 5 ESPN channels, as an example, wasn't on. So, I think they were missing out on an audience there, and it's like, why wouldn't you get ESPN to put it on something?
Yeah, and, it was interesting because of the fact that the skills competition is limited to a certain number of players. It's not everybody. So for some
Right.
team fans, this was like the only other chance to see their guy except for the All-Star game itself. So, I think, yeah, that was a little
And
bit
if
of a
dad
miss.
didn't pony up for the ESPN Plus package, the kid didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. But speaking of that skills comp, we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the PWHL 3-on-3 challenge and more about All Star Weekend coming up next.
Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. Uh, yeah, like I said, I'll put out my menu in about a week. I have to figure out what I'm going to shop for. I'm not going to do an extensive shopping. But as far as the betting, yeah, I would bet on the over. I really feel like that's the solid bet here. I even noticed that in the local Philly area, Ike Reese, who reads the same commercial, decided to take the over. So, and I didn't know that. We were like independent of each other. So I felt good about my pick then. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or two or three. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
So I should mention that on the Thursday night activities, they did a Man of the Year award presentation in honor of Keith Magnuson. They gave it to the 67 Maple Leafs, which, of course, they're in Toronto, so it makes sense that they did that.
Yeah, but one of them had to travel from Long Island, Pete Stemkowski, and I know Pete very well. He was a former Ranger. He actually, for a charity softball game I play every year, 2 years ago, he was our manager, and so he's a good guy, fun guy. And one time I took a picture of his ring and sent it to a Leafs fan that I know, just for fun. And so he's a great guy. Anything good that happens to Pete, I'm happy about. So yeah, it's getting to be a smaller group. Like I feel bad. There's so many Leafs jokes that I could insert here, but I'm going to be above that.
Listen, as Flyers fans, we gotta be a little chill about any Toronto jokes that
Yeah,
we make at this point. But I think that the PWHL showcase was a ton of fun. I liked their celebrity coaches better. I mean, Tessa Virtue,
yeah,
absolute queen.
yeah. That's a great
They're
one.
yeah. Uh, I think that it was a really good showcase for the new league. It was really cool though. Ella Shelton, from the New York team, she actually scored the first ever goal in the PWHL in the first game, and she got the first goal in the 3-on-3 showcase as well. So that was kind of cool for her. And Savannah Harmon, who's like one of my favorite women's players. I'm like big on the defensemen in the
Yeah.
women's league.
Okay.
Renata Foss is my favorite player, I think, right now. But Savannah Harmon had 3 goals and 2 assists. Those are 2 of my favorite defensemen in the PWHL right now.
Yeah, I like watching Alex Carpenter, Abby Rock, Brianne Jenner. Those are some of the ones I like watching. So they have some great names. I mean, if I know, 8 or 10 people in this game, that means, they really had some great talent because, fans of the league certainly know a lot more than I do. I only get to watch once in a while. So that's great. I think it's super that they had the showcase. Again, uh, showcase is nice. Doing more for the league is better though, and I think the NHL should do more with the league. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. But hopefully we'll see more of that as
Right.
time goes
But
on.
this is a good start.
Certainly. Yeah, good start. A lot of good opportunities there. I wonder, to some degree, if they're gonna integrate like the NHL and PWHL awards at the end of the year. I think would be a fun way to mix it up a little bit.
That'd be good. Sure. I
Yeah,
mean, I think there's a lot of potential there.
yeah, I think so as well. In the meantime, for the skills competition, it's a little disappointing because they're only having a certain number, like 12 of the guys named to the All Star team participate in the skills competition
Right.
overall. And so, like I said, you miss an opportunity to see your guy. Like Travis Konecny is not participating in the skills comp. And,
Right.
I think, the guys that are great. You've got McKinnon, Nylander, Kale McCarr, Matthew Barzal, JT Miller, Nikita Kucherov, Quinn Hughes, Connor McDavid, Elias Pettersson, Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, and David Pasternak. I mean, you can't go wrong with that list. It's just
No,
like,
I mean, if you're a Flyers fan, honestly, the only guy that Konechny could replace would be Miller, just because I think Konechny
yeah.
is a little trickier than Miller. But beyond that, nobody else on the list you could argue. Like, there's no competition.
No, but it's just like, I wanna see Travis Konecny out there being goofy and, like,
Yeah.
having an interview on the bench while he's watching some other guys. And I think it's, like, builds a little bit of the fun of the team building, especially because they had that draft. It would be fun to see, like, the people, get together and figure out what events they're doing and have, like, another layer to the competition. So, this is all about individual bragging rights.
I mean, honestly, if you really, and this is just my personal spin on it, if you wanted to make this more exciting, you would have only players who are on ELCs and rookies playing in this skills competition because the $1 million for
Yeah.
them would be a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be a fun way to do it to get more people involved.
Yeah.
If you wanna just have the game be the game and have that be
Right.
your
You have the game to
all-stars.
be the game, and then you have the skills with these other young stars, which they've basically done away with the young stars. And I used to like, I don't know if
Yeah.
people remember, like the young stars game was great. Like Joffrey Lupul, I think, was the first MVP of the young stars game, and I loved that. I thought that was terrific, and all of that's just gone.
Yeah, and so if you look at that list of participants I just read, only 4 of the 12 play on American teams. And, I mean, a lot of them are American, but it's like it was very clearly tailored toward a Canadian audience,
Right.
and that's just weird to me. But
You
I
can't
don't
argue
know.
with the names, though. That's the only thing.
No, that's the thing. It's like, how do you balance that out? I don't know. But the competitions themselves, you have a lot of the traditional ones, but also we don't have the goalies involved. So you don't get to see goalies try to do fastest skate, which like that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, actually, I would be okay with they let the goalies do that because the goalies nowadays are so much better skaters than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I will say this, look, of all the things, the fastest skate is the biggest deal. And I give Connor McDavid a lot of credit for still being in it because, guys do the NBA dunk competition like once or twice and then they beg out the rest of the time for the rest of their career. And McDavid hasn't done that. So I give him credit. He doesn't at this point in his career, he could beg out and nobody would really say anything, but I give him credit for doing it.
Yeah, and I understand, like, you can't have 87 players there, who are
No.
all good at a particular thing, but it is interesting that Connor McDavid is the only one in the competition who's currently in the top 10 of fastest skaters in the NHL according to NHL Edge. Owen Tippett is still the fastest skater, in the
For that
NHL
moment.
for
That's the
that
whole
moment.
thing. For that moment.
Yeah,
That's the difference. See, like when you're scouting,
but
that's
doing
like
a
games.
lap is a one-off
No, but it's
thing.
different though. Like what Owen Tippett was doing was he had been motivated to on that play try and get that particular goal and was trying to go as fast as he can, right? But when you start something flat-footed, it's a lot different and a lot harder. So like that's Owen Tippett showed off his game speed, and that's what and so that's different than when you just try and do this kind of competition because he's doing
Sure.
straight line. He's doing straight line. It is different.
Yeah, but I'm just pointing out that only one of the people in the competition were even in the top 10.
No, no, and I think that's
Um,
fair to point out. But again, my other side of that is most of what you're seeing these numbers in the game is you're seeing straight line skating, and this isn't straight line. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing Owen Tippett in this just because he had the highest number. Throw him in there. That's fine by me. I'm
Yeah.
all for it.
Yeah, it's a similar situation in the hardest shot where none of the people in the top 10 of hardest shot so far this season are in the competition. I did not realize Travis Sanheim was still in the top 10 of hardest shot with a shot he made way back in October against Edmonton.
The only thing I'm missing here, and they said it on a broadcast the other night, um, from the list that you have, they said, in I think the last game of the year, it feels like the year, before the break, or the second to last game, that Colton Parayko had the hardest shot.
Well, I could have pulled this list before the last game, but
Ah, okay.
um
So he's not in there either. Again, on that one's tough because I almost would pull from the list of who had the hardest shots in the game rather than who just has the hardest shot. So I'm with you 100% on this one. Like, just pull from your list. It would really prove that the NHL Edge technology is a big deal, and those are the players. But
yeah.
they're not going to be the sexiest players all the time, Rachel. Like, how many people want to see Colton Parayko on a league wide level?
Right, and so it looks like Colton Parayko's now in the 3 slot on this list, so
Okay.
that, um
Okay. So he's in three. Okay, so yeah, so your list, I guess the other. So that's an interesting thing too. Like, how often are they updating the list?
it should be real time, as the data is uploaded into Edge. I
Okay,
just pulled this, maybe before
sorry
that
about
last
that.
game,
Well, it's just I
so
knew I
no,
heard
it's
it.
all good.
I
Yeah,
knew it.
no, that's totally
But
fair.
I'm good with
Uh,
having those guys in there. But like again, listen to the names: Colin Miller, Darren Radish, Tage Thompson, good, Radko Gudas. Like, these are not all
I
star
know,
names.
Erik Karlsson's an all-star
Yes.
name,
So you
so
know
Victor Hedman is an all-star name.
that's the fine line of an all-star game. It's like you got to have
Yeah,
guys with league-wide appeal. And
yeah.
everybody in the list has league-wide appeal on that hardest shot.
Yep, I would think so. Anyway, it's always a thing every year when we get to the All-Star game. Is it are these the true All-Stars or the guys who are willing to show up? So,
I'll
with
say
all
this
that,
for the
yeah,
NHL, I think it's more the true all-stars than most of the other leagues because I haven't heard a lot of bickering about guys not wanting to show up for this one.
that's true. That is very true. It has been a pretty amenable group of guys this year. In the meantime, we are going to look ahead to the next few games for the Flyers and talk about what next week brings, and we'll do that coming up next. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league, including Locked On NHL. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. Looking at next week's schedule, the Flyers get back into action on Tuesday at Florida, so they will be on the road. I think the guys in Mexico maybe can just fly straight to Florida and stay in the sun for another
Yeah,
couple of days.
I would do that.
I yeah, I would too. That is going to be a really tough matchup, I think, to get back into it with.
It is.
There's no easing back into the schedule here.
No, there really isn't. And again, now I think um, really highlighted by John Tortorella talking to Sam Urson, it's a reset for Sam Urson. It doesn't matter whether you thought he was a number one or not. I mean, he has the true number one responsibility on him now. It's different. And I think everybody saw the difference. So this could still be a big adjustment period for Sam Urson.
Yeah, I think so. I'm glad he had a break to have that
Yes.
reset, and they can make some tweaks to his game that they need to just slowly to get any any changes that they want to make. Maybe talk about those defensive structure changes that we talked about
Well,
earlier this week,
that
and
would
work
be
with
good.
Urson to make the communication better, right?
Yeah, that would be good like doing some drills where the defense can really talk about communicating with them would be good, but also maybe not pinching as much, not everybody going up, so these are things that they could ease up on and ease back into as he's
Yeah.
doing that could really help him.
Yeah, and, playing on the road in Florida is a tough way to start, but it doesn't get easier even though they come back home after that. They've got 2 games against the Winnipeg Jets, who, faced recently, and the Seattle Kraken, and, I think that the Flyers were kind of on that mini hot streak when they
Right.
uh, were in Winnipeg. So it's kind of a different circumstance than this week. And this is where a team like the Jets is going to be, kicked into that post All Star break higher gear. It's going to be a different kind of game, I think, against Winnipeg this time.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, now teams are, they're making deals, right? You saw that, Lindholm was traded to Vancouver. By the way,
Yep.
Calgary had nobody in the All-Star game because Lindholm had to switch jerseys. That was kind of
Yep.
a rough, a rough one for Calgary fans. But and I wouldn't be shocked if another trade is possibly made before action even starts, because that's what happens. And I've talked about that, like at these All-Star games, is that all the agents are there, all the GMs are there, and they talk, and they know that the season's a waste. Like there's not a half a season left.
Right, and, the dominoes start to fall. I think,
Yes.
Lindholm is obviously one of the biggest names out there that, we
Yeah.
knew was on the trading block, if not the biggest, and so I do think that, things could start happening here, but again, that's where these teams are gonna kick it into a higher gear, and the Flyers are gonna have to figure out a way to match that level,
Yes.
against Florida, against Winnipeg, and against Seattle, I think it's gonna be tough. I mean, Seattle is kind of
Seattle's
fighting.
hungry. They're on
Yeah.
the edge too.
Yeah, so I think these are gonna be 3 extremely motivated teams for the Flyers to face, and, it is good that we've had the All-Star break, so you can maybe put that losing streak behind you a little bit and start fresh, but it is looming a little bit, especially because we know that the divisional games are gonna heat up a little bit more, after this upcoming week, and, I think that there's a lot of motivation here for the Flyers.
Yeah, and there's some mental things for them to get past. At least they had the time off to do that, meaning Carter Hart, and now they basically have to treat it like, hey, we got to move on. So they had enough time to process that, so that's probably a positive.
Yeah, I think so as well. But yeah, I think that hopefully everybody's, rested in the sense that they're
They're
healing
not
up.
they're not rested like you want them to be. You want them to be like
Oh,
sitting at
no,
home
that is
watching
not true,
watching
Russ.
The Equalizer, going to bed at 8:30. Yeah, it's true.
That is like literally not true. I just want them resting in terms of healing up and not getting hurt. And, if you're banged up, maybe they're less so when they get back. That's all I ever wanted out of this.
Nobody's
But
going parasailing or jet skiing in Mexico, right? No.
that's like not playing hockey though. So, and actually they may have something in their contracts about not being able to do that kind of
And how
stuff.
are you going? But they may or may not. But the point is, they're in Mexico. Who's going to tell on them?
I don't know. That's a good point. Anyway, um hopefully they're having fun as Travis Konecny is having fun at the All-Star game. We will recap the rest of the weekend festivities on Monday's show, as well as name our nemesis of the week. And if you have any questions for us, Burning Flyers questions, you can send us an email at lockedonflyers@gmail. You can send us a message via Twitter at lockedonflyers or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great rest of your Groundhog Day, everyone.